Well, oops, I accidentally went live early. That's okay. We'll get situated and I'll let people get a chance to join along. That's my bad. I'm just gonna sit here and sip coffee for a second. But, hi friends, for those of you joining, and I need to get my little camera here all figured out. Boom, beautiful. Yeah, we're gonna be journaling some wildflowers today. So I'm excited to have y'all join me. This is gonna be great. Make sure that everybody can see the journal a bit easier. Yeah, not gonna be like the best view of the page ever, but go ahead and if you're journaling along, fill out your details on your page. I put the topic on here and the date, and normally I would write down, like if I was outside, the details about the weather and things like that. However, since we are currently at home in my apartment under our COVID-19 isolation protocols, social distancing like responsible citizens, I just wrote that up in my corner instead of the weather and anything because we're just inside. Since we're looking at Kansas wildflowers, if you have your Kansas Flint Hills Wildflowers and Grasses pocket guide, you might grab that. I've picked out like 4 wildflowers I want to look at. And today, I'd like to kind of just look at some basic wildflowers and break down some tips from other nature journalers on how to break down the shapes of wildflowers and simplify how to sketch them out accurately. So we're going to do that first. And I think, yeah, we're just going to look at like 4 basic wildflowers. Let me move my coffee over here. So I'll go ahead and tell you what they are in case you need to Google them. I've got Ohio spiderwort first, Tradescantia ohioensis, which is one of my favorite wildflowers out here. I think it's one of Nicole's favorite wildflowers too. They're just such fun plants. We also have Illinois tick clover, which is responsible for all those heinous little seeds that stick to you. If you listened to our April Fool's podcast episode yesterday, Alicia talked about burrs and stuff and how she actually quite likes this particular plant. We're also going to be doing rose verbena, which I picked out specifically because it was a little bit more of a complex flower shape, because really it's like this nice circle of multiple flowers, so I think that'll be fun to do. And then the compass plant. So I think basically there's a mixture here of like simple flowers I'm really excited to see when I can go outside and there's wildflowers again, and things that I thought would be just fun to learn about too. And so we're going to do that. And then I think what we're going to do next week is I have a really fun book. I'm just going to divide up my page while I'm talking. I've got a really, really fun book that's called Botany in a Day, and it kind of takes you through different groups of plants and teaches you the different like shapes and forms of those families so that you can identify them better by not necessarily looking at individual plants, but like what are the characteristics that I know it has in common with its family and stuff like that. So I think that'll be really cool, and I'm excited to actually dive into that book. I got it from our gift shop, which obviously you can't visit our gift shop right now. I don't even know if they have it in stock anymore, but it's a cool book. So I think we're going to look at a couple of different common families next week to kind of continue on our wildflower trend here. And probably one of those families will be the carrots and parsleys, because those guys are really, really common in Kansas and super recognizable, so I know that'll be really fun for us. And I don't really know what else I'm going to do. Probably asters or something, because asters are so common. But they're also a little bit more difficult to draw. Maybe that's why it would be really fun to do that one, though. So, okay, cool. Well, kind of like I did yesterday with the mussels, I've divided up my page into 4 squares so I can document these different types of wildflowers. And I guess I'll start off by putting the names on here. I'll probably put the names in the top this time. I'm going to drink my coffee, though. Give me a second. Ah, beautiful. Okay. Just for fun, I'm going to use a marker that has a fun color. So let me write the common names And I know, like, for a lot of us, scientific names are not something that we get excited about or that feels super useful, but in wildflowers, it really, really is. Um, because a lot of other, like, states will call these plants something different. Um, Over time, they've received different names. So it can be really hard to like communicate which plant are you talking about exactly. So I'll probably end up adding the scientific names of these guys in here too. But at least by me getting the names of the plants on the page here, it's also going to help you guys if you're journaling along with me to Google photos of these, because I know it's going to be really hard to see the actual plants because these pocket guide images are really small even in person, but I'm sure especially in the video. Um, Compass plant. Compass plants we have out in the park at Chisholm Creek Park, and they're so pretty. They look like a sunflower from a distance, but they have these really, really cool leaves that are deeply lobed and just real fun. They're rough, and they're not in compass directions, but they have the sort of like, their leaves around the base of the stem have like the 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of cardinal directions, like positioning, and that's why it's called compass plant. But you cannot, as far as I know, navigate using a compass plant. Okay, but these are all definitely things that you'll see outside. This spring, these pop up pretty early, and tick clover you'll certainly notice when it starts to have the little sticky Velcro-y seeds that get stuck to you. All right, well, I guess let's get started. And I'm going to leave off the scientific names just because I don't want to take the time this morning with you guys to do that, but I will definitely be adding those names later on. Okay, so we're going to start by trying to document our Ohio spiderwort first. And I'll probably just zoom in here on my journal so y'all can see a bit better what we're doing. And there's a lot of techniques to drawing wildflowers, but kind of like what we talked about yesterday with the mussels and even with our gesture drawings that we practiced last week, it's really good to get down like the basic shapes and simplify them first. And with flowers, it's really tempting to just kind of go whoop, whoop, whoop and draw the petals immediately. But something that John Moore Laws, one of our like really well-known nature journalers who is a huge national resource for materials in nature journaling, he recommends a little bit of a different tactic. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the shapes around the petals and try to find like a circle almost that I can use to describe the direction that this flower is facing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. And actually, since it's just a small clump of a few flowers, I'm going to go ahead and add these 2 flowers in there as well. And so I'm just trying to get basically like the face of the flower in there. I'm not worried about the shapes. There is some overlap with this one, so I'm going to try and get that on here, I guess. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So there's our discs. And then what John Moore Laws recommends is looking at the petals that are here. And notice this flower has 3 petals. So I'm going to find the center of that petal. And instead of trying to draw the actual petal itself, I want to find like where the point of the petal is going. Oh yeah, the pen is super light. That's because I kept it light on purpose. But I can darken it up for you guys so you can see it better. Is that a little bit better? Cool. And I'll probably, like, I've got a pen here, so I'll go back in and make it real dark once we're finished sketching it out. But at any rate, I want to find, so on this one, the center of it is kind of right there. I'm going to leave this here so you guys can see it. And then I'm going to find, let's see, this petal goes out this direction. So I'm going to just do that. And then for this petal, I'm going to go out like that. And this petal goes up like here. So you can see that's a little bit of an easier way to kind of block out what's happening with your flower and to really get the 3D shape down. Before I draw in these petals, let's do the same thing on these other ones. So this flower is like facing upwards a little bit more. I don't know. So we'll go start down here where the middle of the flower is. This petal goes up this direction. This petal goes out like this. And then this one is a little bit shorter and it goes right there. And last but not least, this little dude, there's his petal. There's this petal. And then there's that petal. So we've got our 3 petals in, and I think we've kind of got the shape that it all forms. So now I'm going to go in and try to record the details that are in these petals here. So here's where we get some more of that like 3D quality to them, where it's like, ooh, some of these petals kind of fold and stuff, and that doesn't really matter as much, but you know, if you pay attention to those details, it can really help you kind of show the form of the flower a bit better, I guess. I don't know. So I'm gonna start up here for a change. And yeah, this petal's like really not doing a whole lot. I'm noticing too that these petals overlap a little bit, so that'll be something to try and capture. And then these petals come up like this. And then this one, yeah, has this weird kind of fold going on here, but that's okay. So I know that this page is kind of looking like a mess. I'm gonna go ahead and add like these little reproductive parts of the flower real quick. But I'll go in and like mark down the important lines with a pen, so it's a little bit easier for us to see what these shapes are looking like now. And let's see, we've got this one going in like that, and then this petal. Oh, and I have like some just chill music going on in the background. If that's distracting, please let me know and I can like turn it down or turn it up. I know it's really faint, so hopefully it's not bothering anybody. But I like ambiance, and I can't talk to any of your faces in person, so here we are. Okay, so there's my spiderwort. And these little guys, I'll just go ahead and add in. Cool. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other petals, and we'll see our little plant here come together. Now, one thing I really, really like about spiderwort is that if you actually break open the stem, it's this like really weird, like sticky, slobbery texture that some people refer to as cow slobber. And it's really cool. Like, I've seen these pop up in people's gardens as like, you know, weeds, which is really just a silly way of saying flowers that are really cool, but they just didn't get planted there, so I don't like them. But if you find spiderwort out there, like it's a really cool little plant, and the flowers don't last long. They like self-digest their own flowers after a day, so the flowers literally only last about a day. But while the flowers are out, ooh, I actually just noticed that there's 5 exactly. I wonder if that's an important number of these little like stamens. No, this one has 6. They're probably supposed to be 6 because these guys have the 3 petals. Anyway, they pop up and don't last very long, but they just keep producing more and more flowers, so you just keep finding more and more of them, I guess. It's pretty fun. Now, let's see, what was I saying? Oh, the three petals is actually a really important note for this plant. Let me see if I can find a way to put this on the page where y'all can see it. Because the number of petals is often a good indicator of which family a wildflower belongs to. So in this case, like it's actually telling us something really important, which is that it's related to irises and things like that. This is called a monocot, which I'll write down in my journal, I guess. And you'll notice that these leaves, are parallel veined down, so it's almost like a blade of grass, or you know, like an iris or a tulip or something. So these are in that same group of plants. They usually have petals in groups of 3, 6, 9, whatever. And so, yeah, this is a pretty special little flower, and paying attention to these petals like we're doing right now is a good way for us to learn that. Okay, so this petal comes out like this, and then we're going to do this one right here. And then this petal comes out like this. This is like, I like how I waited till the very end to do the easiest flower on this little group, because there's like no overlapping. The petals all kind of like go where you expect them to go, and it's real easy. But hey, we got the hard ones out of the way first, so now we can just fill in the rest. And I'm just going to ink it in. If I were not doing this live, I would try to like maybe make the lines a little bit lighter, my pencil lines, but this is just helping you guys to see it too. Boom. Hey, Jen. Yeah, these are all Bob Gress photos. They're really great. He's got quite a collection. He actually has a website for his bird photography that he shares with a couple of other local well-known bird photographers called Birds in Focus. So if you just want to go like gaze upon a bunch of Bob Gress photos, you can do that. Good references for nature journaling too, if you want to do some nature journaling. Hi everybody! Oh, I'm recognizing so many faces that are here. Maybe not faces, I'm recognizing your names. Nicole, we're journaling one of your favorite plants. But anyway, you can see how, like, by dividing it up a lot and finding the shapes of the flower, it's helping us to make some quick sketches. And I know this wasn't exactly quick, so I had to go in and make all the petals exactly right or whatever. But, like, it's a really, really good way to sketch quickly out which direction the flowers are facing to help you make sense of where the petals are. Instead of just kind of guessing and starting with the petals, you draw like a disc to show where the petals are, and then you find the tip of each petal and kind of make your rays out from the center like that as a way to figure out where they all go. So there's our Ohio spiderwort, a beautiful little monocot. And just to round this out, I know we're doing wildflowers, but I'm going to try and add in a little bit of the extra bits of the plant, and you can see it's got these like buds in the center. So there are these cute little green buds. I'm just gonna add those in. Yeah, you're welcome. Spiderwort is so underappreciated, and we're all about finding ways to appreciate the underappreciated around here. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and put these leaves out, and heck, we got a leaf now that is going right up to our monocot thing, so that's a monocot. Cool. Hopefully you're all able to see my pencil markings okay, but that's our spiderwort. Cool, so let's take what we just learned and apply it to a different plant. Let me scooch my paper over here and take a drink of coffee before it gets too cold. That's the wrong page. Ooh, my coffee's getting cold. Tick clover! So, this one's a little bit weird. And this is actually a bean, which is why the little pea-shaped flowers are so different looking. Kind of fun. I'm just gonna draw maybe one of these. Well, I think maybe it's important to draw the whole thing. But here, let me give it a little stalk, I guess. And then I'll find, just like we did last time, a place for one of those flowers to go. So let's just say right here is where one of them is. And then we'll put another one right here. And then from the side, they look real weird. So maybe I'll go ahead and add this little guy on the side here. And since we're looking at this flower from the side, I am just going to go ahead and like draw in ovals for the petals to show where they're going. Which is not a very precise drawing here, but it kind of gives you the idea, I guess. Cool. And so just like last time, I'm going to find the center of these guys, and it's like way, way far down from the top. Boom. So we'll do that. Same thing over here. Boom. And that just kind of shows us where this plant is. I might attack this from a slightly different direction and just say like, where is this center line, because you'll notice on this flower, ooh, wow, wrong place. The petals kind of meet up here down the middle. So, you know, we're just trying to simplify shapes and figure out how to lay down the petals. So I'm just going to put like a little center line here to show where those bigger petals meet. Same thing over here. And then fill in the rest. So I'm going to start with this little tongue hanging down. And I have totally forgotten what like the proper term for this would be. This is a really specific kind of bean flower. Like there's maybe 3 different types of flowers that beans, member of the bean family, can have. This type right here is actually really, really similar to red buds. So if any of you have red buds in your yard, not only will I encourage you to go out and eat some, because you can, and they taste real sweet, but you could journal them and you'll be looking at the same kind of flower that we're seeing right here. So please go check out your local red buds. Don't have to travel very far to find them because they're everywhere. Boom. Okay, cool. And over here, I guess it goes down a little further. And the side's a little bit smaller. Neat. I'm also noticing on this flower that it has like a really, I don't know if you can even see that at all in this camera, but it's got a kind of weird little pattern here in the middle, which I don't really know what's going on there, but it seems important. So I'm going to go ahead and put those little marks. It looks like they're in the center of these bigger petals. Oh, wait, hang on. Cool. So there we go. That's our little tick clover flowers. Delicate little flowers, not so delicate little seeds that stick everywhere. And I could add in more of these flowers, but I'm going to call this good for now because I think it's like showing, you know, enough of the plant that we need. So I'm just going to go in, oops, and block in the bigger shapes with my pen. Dun, 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 dun. And I did grab some colored pencils this morning, so when we're finished sketching them all out, I'll probably go in and add some colored pencils. This might be a little bit of a shorter journaling session today, and that's okay. Because after we're finished here, and it looks like there's like a little like lip almost going down the middle. When we're finished here today, you can certainly go and add to this and try this method with some other wildflowers, maybe flowers in your garden, other flowers in Kansas that you just want to learn more about. And you can also expand your journal entries to be almost like field guides of themselves, which is what I really like to do as like a study tool almost. So, you know, filling in a lot more details, about the life history, maybe some botanical terms. I love doing that personally because it really helps me remember what some of the terminology is when I take the time to write it down, and especially on a diagram or something, where I really wouldn't remember it if I was just reading it over and over again, trying to memorize it. Ooh, this is fun. So looking at the side view, it's almost like the flower kind of pops out of a little sheath, which is kind of cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so I'm relatively happy with that. I might try to smooth out these lines a little bit here with my big old pen. But there we go, our tick clover. And I will go ahead and write in just a couple of details about it that we noticed while we were drawing. Like, let's see. I'm trying to read my notes here to see. It is a pea-shaped. Which, and obviously in this case is not talking about like the actual vegetable that you eat, but rather the type of bean flour that we're looking at. So I will add that as well to try and clarify what is meant by that. So I'll write that it's in the bean family, and it has the pea-shaped flowers. Very cool. Okay, well, let's move on to another flower. Yay! Compass plant. This is gonna be fun because this is kind of like a sunflower, which is going to be pretty different from the little flowers that we've been drawing so far. Let me see where it is in my book. Aha, there it is. So, take a look at these flowers and maybe plot out how you would start sketching them in your journal. These really aren't clustered in the same way as the others in this photograph, but they will start blooming down the stalk, and you'll get more than one on the stalk sometimes. So, wow, I really don't like how tiny this image is. It makes it really hard to find the compass plant. Let me go grab my iPad real quick so I can look it up since my phone is currently occupied filming this. Okay, and if you will forgive me this moment, I will go ahead and look up the compass plant flowers. Man, I love the internet. So, there is a really, really good Kansas Wildflower website, which I will recommend to you guys. It is not the one that I'm looking at right now, but it's called kansaswildflower.org. In fact, I might go ahead and go to that website. And it has pretty much every wildflower you could hope to find in the state of Kansas, which is so nice because it also, you know how I talked about how people use different names for these things everywhere? Let's go by color. Because this is a Kansas guide, it's going to be the names that you're most familiar with or that you're more likely to hear around this area, so that's a really cool resource. They also have an app which is for identifying wildflowers. Please look up that because it is a really, really useful tool. Oh, much better. See, this is a much better set of images than what I could see in the pocket guide. Okay, so let me see here. Which one do I like best? Let's look at this one. Oh, that's nice. Okay, that's going to be it. We're going to look at that compass plant flower. And notice how on this image you can really see, like, how hairy this is. That's so fun. Okay, I'm going to grab some more coffee, and then let's get started journaling this guy. Okay. Let's see. Backing out a bit. Let's see if I can't find a way to get all of this on screen for you guys so that you can see the reference I'm using. There, I think that'll work. So those are compass plant flowers. Like you can tell, it's very similar to a sunflower, but you might notice some differences. Like, the center isn't brown like the common sunflower. It's yellow, almost like a Maximilian sunflower. And I don't know if you guys are noticing something else a little bit different about this flower, but it's also something that members of this family have in common, which is that it's really not one flower that just has petals radiating off of it. This is a conglomeration of many, many flowers. So these little fuzzy things you're seeing in the middle, those are little florets, little flowers that have, kind of these like fuzzy looking petals coming off of them. Those are different reproductive parts of the flower. And then the flowers around the outside edge have these really, really long petals that kind of radiate around it like a disc. So this is going to be a little bit challenging to draw for us if we want to do it accurately, which is usually my goal when I'm nature journaling. But the nice thing about nature journaling is that, like I said yesterday, we're really just trying to capture the things about the plant that we notice the most in a way that's going to help us effectively remember the plant. So you can cheat, you can do whatever you need to do when looking at this flower to help you document it in a way that makes sense to you. I'm gonna start by drawing the little center disc on this dude. Cool. And let's see, since we've got all these little florets coming off of it, and you'll notice that they're not really blooming along the outside edge, I'm gonna try and mark in where those little florets are blooming. Real loosely. Again, we're just trying to get the general shapes in to help us. Oops, I keep breaking my pencil. Okay. And then I need to figure out how to tackle all these petals. This is so complicated, but I am just gonna kind of come out over here, I guess. I'm maybe gonna make in the spirit of compass plant, I'm gonna make some different compass directions, I guess, coming off of it, and just kind of try to find out how long they are. And this is just my dumb way of trying to do my journal entry, so you guys do this in whatever way you're comfortable with if you'd rather just make a big disc, but I just didn't trust myself to be able to make an accurate disc shape just roughly, so I'm instead gonna try and fill in where all these petals end up going, and this is actually quite long out here. And okay, that'll work. So then I'll maybe fill in my little disc and try to map out where these petals are going. And this is going to be really fun because the sort of arcs of these petals, I think, is really what's going to help us figure out in our drawing, okay, that's what we're looking at. And I've definitely seen some people choose to do their journal entries. And you know what? Actually, I think in some of these areas, I'm going to use the negative space around it to kind of document where the petals are. Does that make sense? So instead of being well, here's the petal, I'll be oh, here's the V that the petals are making when they touch each other up there. That can be another really good tool to help tackle a complex shape like this. But anyway, I've seen people take a complex flower like this and oh, thanks, Kim, I'm glad you're having fun. And just make it simple. That's a really good way, simplifying these things into actual diagrams where you're okay, the basic pattern of this plant is that it has all of these things. And I guess for wildflowers, we could almost think of it as how birding guides will often have simplified silhouettes of the bird where it's this particular owl doesn't look like other owls necessarily, but the overall silhouette is owl-like. So it can definitely be valid to not attempt to recreate this, but to just make a little diagram showing the important features. I might even go up and do that on our spiderwort here because we had the 3 petals. So it's not really trying to be especially accurate, but that this is the general shape you're looking for. Boom, simple. You can do whatever you want to in your journal, obviously, to help yourself document it. But here's what I'm going to do now, moving forward. I'm going to just keep looking around here and looking at the negative space, because I think it worked out really well for me. And I'm finding it way easier to tackle that than to try and draw every single petal, if that makes sense. So there's that one, and then we've got a big old gap for some reason. I wonder why. And then we'll add in these guys. And I'm noticing, and maybe you guys are noticing too, that each of these little petals has like 2 grooves going down the middle, which adds like a bit of fun texture to it. I don't know whether I'll try to capture that, but it's just a cool thing to make note of. In fact, I'll just write a little note. Each petal has 2 grooves running down it. Cool. Okay. So moving along, let's see, we got this little dude. Let's make some of these bigger petals and go back into maybe more negative space. I'm trying not to touch my iPad too much. Oh gosh. I'm gonna come back up here actually. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. I'm really excited for next week when we start looking at some of the families and stuff of wildflowers, because that to me is the most useful thing in well, I was going to say botany, but I guess in biology in general. Like, I find it really useful as a birder to be able to look at a new bird I don't recognize and say, well, it's definitely a member of the finch family because it has these characteristics that all finches have. And that can really help you narrow down your search. So, like, maybe you have no idea what the plant is, but you can say, well, this is definitely a member of the carrot family, or it's definitely an aster or something. And so then you're like, well, that helps narrow it down. So useful. And that's not, like, totally accurate, this drawing I've just done, but it sure got the job done. So that'll be just fine. Neat. Okay. Well, having done that, I guess, what am I supposed to do now? I'm gonna erase the edge of this disc and, oops, I keep bumping my little tripod. And then I'm going to try and document these little, like, florets, I guess. I don't really know what's happening with this. And I'm not gonna attempt to capture it, but there we go. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. And, you know, like, there's this kind of, like, texture, this like circular texture on the disc that hasn't bloomed yet, so I'm just gonna make some circles over here. I did not try to make that accurate, I just added circles. And I don't know if this is important, but can you see how on this image, like at the edge here, there's little pieces coming off the petal? That almost makes it seem like it's a piece of the flower that's similar to the flowers in the middle, and maybe that little like miniature petal coming off of it is important. I don't really know, but we're gonna maybe add those little things in there just for fun. Cool. Okay, well, that'll do for our compass plant flower. I'm not gonna try and draw any of the other ones. So for our journal entry here, I've got that each petal has the 2 grooves. And since the stem is super hairy, I know we're looking at the flower itself, but I want to make sure I put that in there because it seems like a really important trait. And I will say, like, for compass plant, the super hairy stems and also the really rough leaves that are almost a little bit hairy too, that is a pretty important characteristic for this plant. So definitely would behoove us to go ahead and document that super hairy stem. And this time I'm not going to try to draw the leaves. I just don't have the space for it on this page. But it does have very unique leaves, and I would totally encourage you guys in your journal entries to try and document that. And hairs are hard to draw, so we're just going to add a whole bunch of lines because that'll get the idea across. Whew, okay. Well, I think we've managed to actually kind of do pretty okay with this compass plant. You know, it would be really fun. There's an activity you can do in journaling that's called zoom in, zoom out, where you take, like, okay, the bigger picture of this plant, and then maybe you zoom in on a really small character. So, like, maybe if you had a compass plant in front of you, taking one of these little miniature florets out and drawing what exactly it looks like would be a really fun thing to do. And sometimes people will put like a little magnifying glass shape on the side for that. And then on the other hand, zooming out and like drawing what the whole plant looks like over here can be really fun. And then you can put the leaves in there too. That's a really terrible leaf. But that's a really, really fun botanical activity for doing a more like complex field guide entry almost for each plant. So as you guys are journaling on your own this week, try doing that on your botanical drawings. Okay, cool. Well, that's our compass plant. Last but not least, let's look at our rose verbena. Actually, maybe I should try to do the ink outline on this one like I did the others, just to make it a little bit clearer on our page here. Yeah, sure, why not? If you guys are journaling along, I hope that you'll take your version of this activity and post it, because that'd be pretty cool. We have a Nature Journal Club here at the Nature Center. It's a Facebook group. I mean, obviously you meet in person too, but not right now because we're responsible citizens of the world and we are socially distancing ourselves. We're still working though, obviously. I don't know if you saw our April Fool's Day video yesterday, but that cracked me up. Lindsay did not tell us she was making that, and so it was a fun surprise for all of us to see our volunteer of the month, who was not human. That was pretty fun. Anyway, we're working, so that's all good. And I noticed at the tip, like, so each one has the two grooves, right? They have these, like, little grooves on the tip of the petals, too, that kind of correspond to where those grooves are. So that's neat. Boom, boom. And you'll notice I've taken my reference away, because at this point I'm just, like, not as concerned with getting each little petal perfect. I'm just concerned about kind of filling in what these shapes overall look like. Cool. And I guess maybe I'll add just like a few of those darker ones in there, just to kind of show like there's different textures in this little flower head. Cool, and then we've got our disc, boom, 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 and I'll just add some little circles in this. Sometimes if you're trying to do like different details and you want to make sure that the most important shapes stand out, it can be really helpful to like switch to a smaller pen or something if you have it. But usually when I'm out journaling, like outside, I've only have like a limited number of supplies with me, so that's okay. You do what you want. Whatever helps you see it better. And I will, I've got some colored pencils like I mentioned earlier, so I'll go back in and like add some colored pencil colors to this, which I think will help us see the shapes a bit better. But that's okay. Okay, anyway, there we go. Boom, beautiful. We've got our compass plant. And I'm gonna try to add in all of these hairs. Almost makes it look like a cactus. And that's where, like, labeling it can be really helpful, because you can say, oh, these are not prickly, the thistle is prickly, but this is just hairy. Of course, since we're today doing this from, like, a picture, we, I guess, technically wouldn't know whether it was hairy or spiny unless we read the description. Very hairy. Alright, cool. And I'll go ahead and mark this in pen too. Nice! Okay, now I think we're ready for our rose verbena. Let's try this one. And this one's going to be kind of fun because we'll have to pull our pocket guide here again. But in pocket guide image, let's see. Ah, yes, okay. So this has a whole bunch of flowers on it, but you'll see it's kind of maybe important to capture all of those flowers. You know what, guys? I might have to get our iPad out again because it's kind of hard to see all the details that we need to on this one. And since I have the internet here, well, let's just use it to our advantage. So I'm going to go back to our kansaswildflower.org website. And, oh, I gotta open this. And I'll find home. I'm going to just search for it. Rose verbena. Nice. Okay. So, there's our flower. Let's see, which reference should we use? Let's just use this one, this main picture right here. Okay, cool. So, as you're able to see, and let's go look at this image larger. Can I do that? Nope. Okay, it's fine. So it's like this central disc, kind of like we saw with our compass plant, except instead of being like little florets, these are like individual flowers going around this rose verbena. And this is a super recognizable plant. I know that once you guys have looked at this plant, especially if you are taking the time to journal it, you will notice it when you go outside, and you'll see it everywhere. Especially, you know, once it starts blooming. So let's try to get our rose verbena. I'm just going to draw one of these, but it seems like the shape that the flowers are growing in is much more important than the individual, excuse me, shapes of the flowers. So, yeah, let's draw the whole shebang. I'm probably just going to use this one right here as my reference. I'll scoot this all over. Where did my pencil go? Oh dear. Just art problems. Cool. Okie dokie. Let's attempt to tackle this. So I'm gonna make a big circle for our entire plant here. And you know what? Since this is a journal entry, I'm just now realizing some details that we probably should be recording, and I'll maybe go back and do that when we start coloring it in. We'll add some more details about descriptions, but the size I think would be really important for these individual flowers, like how big is the tick clover, how big is this compared to the compass plant. That would be very useful, so we'll do that in a bit. How to tackle this? So originally we started off by making little circles for each flower, and I think we need to do that again here for this, but instead for each of these little guys going around the circle. So I'm going to mark out our center right here, and then maybe like here's where the center doesn't really have any blooming flowers yet. Okay. And like, okay, there's all these layers. Are you noticing that too on this flower? So the topmost flowers are, yeah, and sorry, what I mean to say is there's a layer of flowers that are like at the very top, and then underneath them there's another like ring of flowers. So maybe I'll just kind of try to add that in as well. I wonder if it matters how many flowers there are. No, probably not, because there's different numbers in these other plants. I think what's more important is the fact that they're just all growing out in a circle. That's just my feeling when I'm looking at this flower. That's how I am interpreting it as I look at it. So here we go. What kind of music are you playing right now, Spotify? Okay, let's see. That'll work. So, how many petals are there on each of these little dudes? Just gonna add some circles. 5 petals. So this is gonna end up being kind of like a little star shape. That's fun. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's see, on this one up here, let's see, we've got 2 petals coming out like this, two petals coming out like this, and then the one up here. Nice. Nice and simple, accurate petals. Okay. And what's kind of fun is that this is also allowing us to kind of, like, there's really subtle planes that are going on in these flowers. And so this is helping us to kind of figure that out too, just in a really easy way. Boom. Okay, cool. I'm happy with that. I might then go ahead and add a few more circles underneath it just to kind of fill out and show, like, I'm not trying to be accurate again. I'm just trying to show that there are other layers of flowers going on underneath this. So in some of these places where that's pretty apparent, I will attempt to add those in. This one's kind of covered up. That's okay. And then I'll add another one, like, right there. Oops, wake up. Cool. And it's kind of hard to see where these petals are going on these other ones that are hidden underneath, but I'll attempt to put it in there. And now another thing I'm noticing is that, like, okay, the center of these petals dips in quite a bit. So that means this center line that we've made for each of the petals is going to be like this center point, and the petals are going to come out from that, like out and up from that, like a little heart. You see what I mean? Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and fill in some petals. And I'm just going to draw them like hearts because that seemed really easy. Okay, we've got like little, oops, let's go like this. Little heart shapes that kind of go in like that. Well, shoot, now that we know that, this is really easy to draw these petals. See, y'all can make excellent, accurate wildflowers super easily. Boom, there's one of our flowers. Okay, cool, fun. And just to kind of make that clearer, where on earth did my pens keep going off to? Okay. Let's add our little circle, center circle, and then, yeah, her petals coming out from that. This is fun. I had never looked at a rose verbena this close before. Like, just the way that it grows is usually enough for me to be able to identify it, and so I've never really taken the time to stop and look more closely at this plant like this before. It's kind of fun, honestly. Neat. Okay. Same thing with all the others. So, yeah, join me. Oh shoot, this is fun. I think that this is another one of those flowers that kind of pops up. So if you were looking at it from the side, I think it kind of pops up like this and then has the petals coming out. Does that make sense? And then this like attaches to the plant down there. I forget the botanical term for this, but I think it's maybe a corolla or something like that. So drawing these from a different angle too can be another really good way to add more details to your journal entries on them. You know, for flowers in particular, I find journaling them to be especially useful. Like for other animals that maybe are a little bit complex, any time that you're able to take the time and sit down with it long enough to sketch it and document different observations about it, it's going to help you learn it no matter what. But for flowers, like maybe it's something about the geometry of them, or I don't know what it is, but I find it sometimes difficult to remember what's happening in a flower and what the important characteristics are if I don't journal them out. In particular, when I get to add different botanical words and terminologies that I've learned, I don't know. This is like my favorite study tool. I think I mentioned that yesterday, but in my undergrad, I would always sketch out the different shapes and family characteristics and stuff, and it really, really helped me study because just like the mechanical action of sitting down with it and looking closely enough to recreate it, it really helps it stick in your mind in a way that just reading about it or just seeing it outside really can't. So for my friends that are stuck doing like 1 hour of school a day instead of other actual schooling, yeah, maybe consider adding some nature journaling to your zoology classes or whatever. And like always, art really isn't like a talent. I know people tend to be like, "Oh, you're so talented when you can draw," but it really is just a skill. So, the more you sit down and observe things, the more you practice recreating them and simplifying the shapes and finding ways that help you to see it in a way that makes sense to you, the more accurate your drawings are going to be and the more comfortable you're going to be with trying to sketch it out. So even if you are feeling like I'm not an artist, like that's not a kind of language we use here in nature journaling. You are an artist. Even if you aren't now, it's like, the act of taking the time to do this and practice it, you might find that you become an artist. And even if you don't, it's okay, because that's not the point of nature journaling. The point of nature journaling is to document what you're seeing and to spend time with nature in a different, more engaging, sort of one-on-one way. I want to encourage you guys too, if you're in our Nature Journal Club on Facebook, our Facebook group, please share your journal entries with us. I think that would be really fun to see. I know I could definitely be posting more of my journal entries and stuff, but I just want to encourage you guys to show off the things that you've been working on. And I know one of our folks who was watching yesterday, at least one that I know of, was journaling along and made some awesome muscle sketches, and the notes, like, top notch, amazing notes on that journal entry. Honestly, the notes kind of make it. Sometimes, like, some of my favorite journal entries, because there's a national nature journal club too, that's run by the crew that John Moore-Laws and others, Emily, have worked on. They often post like really creative, like there's really great entries by kids. There's really great entries that are almost like cartoon-like and diagrammatic, and it's totally on my list. I know, like, in-person Nature Journal Club, like Doug and you that come on a regular basis, Mary, Anita, we have done some diagrammatic stuff before. We did it with animal movement. Yeah, that was it, animal movement and behaviors. Ooh, that was fun, and I really want to do some more of that here before long. But we're going to take a little wildflower detour next week, like I mentioned, so maybe after wildflowers we can do more diagrams. Okay, one more, and then we're almost done with our rose verbena. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it? Oh, almost 11. Cool, so we've almost been going an hour on this. Okay, we're doing really good, y'all. Okay. So then probably what I'll do with the last like 10 minutes or so is add some notes about these flowers, about like the size of them and stuff, and then just like use a colored pencil to kind of color it in, and just roughly show off the colors, because that's obviously a really important part of identifying wildflowers, is looking at the color. In fact, there's guides, even our Kansas Wildflower Guide, that will sort flowers by color, because I mean that's like the first thing you notice about them. That and the time of year that you're observing them outside, but of course right now we're just using a book. but potentially in the future you could also look at it outside. Okay, so then I'm just gonna briefly sketch in the other petals. I don't even think I'm gonna necessarily ink these in, but I just want to get them down on the paper so that, you know, we can go back and add some colors. Okay, boom, 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 that'll work. And maybe even not adding an outline, like a really thick outline, will kind of help to separate it out as being like a lower layer too, you know what I mean? Cool. Okay, I'm happy. Rose verbena. Should I go through the middle here and add some outlines? Probably. Am I going to? I guess not. I'll just leave it the same. That'll be fine. You can always go back and add outlines later. That's easy to do. Cool. Okay, I'm happy. Let's grab our pocket guide and some colors. And I'll go back through each of these little dudes. There we go. Boom. There's our journal entry for flowers. And again, if I had more time and I was spending time individually with these flowers instead of just like, for me, this is more of like a comparison exercise where we're able to look at like different forms and shapes that flowers can have and compare them with each other. Filling out like a whole page would be so easy with something like botany because there's just so many different features to look at. Oh my goodness, hiccups. Okay, spiderwort. There's our beautiful spiderwort. Let's see. So I'm gonna add a little note over here that says the height and maybe the flower size. Does it even say how big the flowers are? No, that's terrible. I don't like that. Rude. Okay. Well, the height is 2.5 feet to 3.5 feet. I guess we'll just write down whatever data they actually give us. And then let's grab some colored pencils, and I'm just going to add in some colors real quick so we can see what's going on these guys. I'm not going to bother erasing the red marks because, you know, they just kind of blend into the background when you start adding colors, and I'm not too concerned about that. I'm not trying to make like a finished piece of art. I'm just trying to document things. Okay, so there's that. Let's see, do I have like, ooh, it's a nice bluish purple. Do I even have a bluish purple? Probably not, but, oh, yeah, I do kind of. That'll get the idea across at least. Well, this is really more of like a burgundy. That's okay. When you're not able to add perfect colors, this is a really good opportunity to take notes about it and make notes in there. Let's see, do I have like a different, I'll maybe add some blue in to try and make it, ooh, that'll work. Okay, so I had a purple, I'm just gonna add some blue on top, a pale blue, and that'll make it look a little bit more realistic. A little bit more like the actual color. I think this is actually the back of the page on the muscles. Oh no, it's on the other side. Fun. I'm just going to color in that one flower because we really only need to see the color on one. And I kind of like on these guys how even the, I'm not going to maybe do this, but even the, oh, actually maybe I will. The leaves themselves are more of like a bluish green, so everything just ends up looking kind of blue. It's cool. It's a nice like cool color palette, you know what I mean? Cute. All right, that'll work. Good enough for me. Let's see, our tick clover. Oh, this is terrible because like it describes it as being 3 to 5 feet tall, but that really doesn't. Oh, Kim, yeah, we're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. for the nature journaling. We leave these up after they're finished, so you can always come back to them. But and we'll put them on YouTube as well. But that's the time I'm planning on doing these every day. Not every day, shoot, every week. Tuesday and Thursday. until we are ready to go back to a normal work schedule. What else was I gonna say? Oh wait, sorry, I got mixed up. I was gonna add the height on this one because it doesn't say how big the flowers are. But this, okay, so this plant might be 3 to 5 feet tall, but it doesn't tell me how big the little flowers are. Just annoying. But they are pretty delicate, so I guess we can safely assume that these are little delicate flowers. But yeah, that's when you can find us here, Kim. And we put them on YouTube too, I guess is what I was gonna say. After they complete, we download them off Facebook and add them to our YouTube channel. So if that's easier for people to find them after the fact, obviously they won't be live on YouTube, but you can certainly find them there. Cool, so there's that. The little like center of these little things is yellow. These are really pretty, actually. For a plant that's kind of hated, they sure are beautiful. Well, do I even have like the right color for? Probably not. That's fine. They're kind of like a reddish purple, so we'll just add that in here. Illinois tick clover. Fun, 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 fun. Okay, neat. I might just add in some of these stem colors because I think it's interesting comparing the colors of the actual plants. Because, like, okay, this was like a bluish green, and that's not really a good depiction of it over here. But this one's like a really nice pale yellowy green, so it's quite different. Cool. Okay, that'll work. Next, let's look at our compass plant. Boom, yellow, super easy. Oh yeah, we used a different reference for this. That's fine. I think this was probably a fairly accurate green. It's that really nice, bright yellow-green color, and it might have been a little bit darker in the last image we used, but that's okay. We'll just kind of put that in there to capture how yellow this plant is. Oh, you can't even see my book. Sorry, guys. I'll put it right there. Maybe. Or not, it's fine. You can trust me. Okay. Okay, so yellow, of course. That's pretty simple, so I might pick, like, here's a nice yellow. We'll just add that in there. Easy peasy. And I think it's also important to document how yellow these florets in the middle were. So we're going to make sure we color in these guys too. Cool. And then this little part, the disc, remember that was more like the unbloomed little florets that hadn't emerged yet, and they were the sort of same green as the plant, so we'll make sure those are green in our drawing too. And I noticed that, like, so I drew in those little darker bits. Those florets had some little, like, brown pieces sticking out. I don't know what the botanical term is for those pieces. Again, it would be kind of cool to go in and really look closely at the floret. If you had, like, a magnifying glass and an actual plant with you, that would be such a fun activity to do. But for today, since this is all I can do, actually you guys can find a plant outside right now that has florets, and that is dandelions. So you can take a dandelion inside and dissect it, and you'll notice that it, like this one, has all of these little florets in that crown of yellow that make up what the dandelion is. So that would be quite similar to what you'd find on something like a sunflower. I mean, not exactly the same, but very, very, very similar. It's those compound flowers, and that kind of makes sense too. Okay, so picture a dandelion. When those seeds emerge, the whole dandelion head is like a bunch of those little seeds with like the fluffy parts coming out. So where every single little seed is, that was one floret, because each one of those flowers could develop into a seed. So that's what this is basically. You know, like eventually it'll be very similar to a dandelion, those little fluffy wind dispersed seeds. Cool, so there's that. And we've captured that the inside is yellow, which I think is great. I might add just like some little brown bits just to kind of, oh dear, just to kind of show that there are some brown fleckings, which I think is why it looks kind of dark in some of the photographs that we've seen. But ultimately, it's very yellow. It's not, you know, a sunflower where it, or a common sunflower rather, where it has those real dark centers that are almost exclusively brown sometimes. Cool, so I think that works. I'm certainly pleased with that. That'll be just fine. Now, let's see. Why don't we finish off our rose verbena over here, and I'll find it in our guide. By the way, thank you guys so much for joining me. Like, this has been a really fun exercise for me, especially since, you know, we can't really get together our Nature Journal Club in person right now, and so I was really missing hanging out with you guys and getting an excuse to sit down with natural things and just sketch them out. So this has been a real pleasure for me. Okay, let me see, what am I doing? This is a darkish center. Oops. These were almost like purpley, this like little, I guess these are unbloomed little buds, almost is what it looked like. And now I'm regretting the fact that I didn't outline those. Well, okay, let me go in and add some little outlines on these. Just so we can see what's happening. Fortunately, this red didn't really get colored over, so I'm able to see exactly what is happening on them. Neat. Okay, so there we go. I wanted to at least capture that they're like kind of greenish, and they are a little bit purple, but you know, I guess what was more important to me, or what is more important to me, is showing that they're not like bright purple like the flowers. They're just like little buds, little purplish greenish buds. And again, these flowers, the green is much more dark and bluish. Tick Clover looks like a cartoon Disney villain. You are so right. I love it. Oh man. Okay, so there we go. And okay, this is, I don't have the right color for this like bright vivid purple. It's like a really pink purple. We would probably have fights over like which color exactly this is, in fact. So what do we even do about that? I don't know. Let me look at my options here. Have I really lost 2 pencils already? Seriously, Rachel? That's okay. Par for the course, I guess. Oh, no. Okay, what am I gonna do about this purple? It's so pink. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe the answer is that I need to use both pink and a purple of some kind. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Oh dear. That is not the right color at all. We'll see what happens when I add purple on top. Oh, that's not the right color either, but you know what? It's good enough, I guess. Is there like a more less peachy pink? A more or less peachy pink? That made a lot of sense. Okay, how about this? Is this good? I don't know. We'll try this one. Oh dear. Less peachy, I say, and then pick out one that's more peachy. Okay, not that. Oh, what about this one? Oh no, none of these are going to be perfect. That's okay. It's whatever. Well, since I'm really not able to capture this perfectly, I might just make a note about the color. Bright. Oh dear, I can spell, I promise. Bright, vivid, pink. I'm trying to look at here and say, what does it, like, describe these as? It says, rose colored. Okay. I'm gonna write rose in quotes. There we go. Oh gosh. Man, I'm wishing that I could find a better color. How about, let's just use this one, I guess. Oh, I don't like it. Oh no, guys, what are we gonna do? We'll use this one. It'll be fine. Oh no, the limits of colored pencil. But it's okay. That's why we're making notes. And maybe if I come back in and add this like bright color, that'll help. A little bit. Is it even close? It's closer than the other ones we tried. So this'll work. I think what's most important is that the guide here specifically points out that it can be confused with Hoary Vervain, which has really, really bluish violet flowers. And so I think as long as we're showing that it's not like a pale bluish violet, it's going to be a useful journal entry for our area because we'll be able to really tell it apart from something else. And that might be a good activity to do too, is to look at some of the comparable species. And here we picked very, very different flowers to compare, but it would be really cool to see the ones that are very similar, because that can allow us to really get tuned in to the things that, they have in common, and the things that they have that are different, to separate them out. And that's a very practical kind of journaling activity to do. There we go. Okay, well, I'm just going to color in that half of them. I think that'll work. I'm quite pleased with our journal entry. Totally forgot to add in the sizes on those, again, on every single one. 6 to 12 inches. So that's a useful note, because that's pretty different from the other ones, which have been quite tall. And then our compass plant, how high was that one? I mean, they're huge plants, 3 to 8 feet. Well, that's nice too, because we ended up having some pretty different sizes of plants as well. Nice. Okay, guys. I guess that's gonna conclude our journaling for today, because we've managed to spend a whole hour looking at flowers. We'll just check these out. I'll take, not a screenshot. Dear Lord, what is a screenshot in real life? I'll take a picture. I've been in isolation too long. I'll take a picture of these, and I'll put it in the GPNC Nature Journal Club. And I really love to see any other journal entries that you guys come up with, especially if you use this activity for some other plants around you, to get an idea of, just maybe what's blooming in your backyard right now, or some similar species, or just flowers and plants that you think are cool that you want to learn more about and get to know better. Please do that. I want to see them. And we'll be back again with more journaling. When are we going to be back? Next week on Tuesday. Man, time does not feel real. So this is Thursday. We'll be back next Tuesday with some more botany, and next week is going to be an all botany week. So if that's not your jam, then we'll see you the week after that. But I hope to see most of you there for our botany stuff, because that'll be fun. Hopefully we'll all learn a lot, myself included, by looking at those species up close. So cool. All right, well, thank you. Thanks for joining, Kim, and everybody else who's here. Anna. See you guys later. Oh no, how do I end this?